And in the paper that you've got, there are two frameworks for analysis of the environment that are set out to try and get a handle on this. And don't strive to take all this in any great rush, but what I'm proposing is the notion that one can think of output characteristics, and here we're just using marketing terminology of price, place and promotion as ephemeral characteristics, and product characteristics as another class, a more enduring characteristic, which includes brand. And those characteristics themselves can be characterised as fit in as much as they fit well or poorly in the production process, the dynamic processes that are going on in some organisation or in a household to generate satisfactions, or a product but not other elements of the marketing mix, the set of output characteristics, can have defining characteristics which can't be imitated. So defining characteristics are defined in this paper as being inimitable characteristics, which are the only things, most often, it is likely that a farmer or any other producer in a marketing system is going to be able to derive benefit from farther markets from their immediate market. It's not as complicated as it sounds. But what it does say is, in the absence of such characteristics, for a farmer, there is only one market, and that's the market for their outputs. There is no virtue in them trying to look further than the immediate buyers of their outputs unless they have some characteristic that resonates further down the marketing system, A. B, so it matters to customers further down the system. B, it attracts a premium from them, so they not only notice it, but they're happy to pay some more for it. And C, that premium flows back to the farmer in some meaningful way, and of course exceeds the costs of being able to provide the desired characteristic. It's all very basic sort of stuff, but the main thing this does is it gives us a framework with which we can identify how far it is sensible for a given farmer with particular capabilities to look toward the final consumer of their output and determine that it is or is not stupid for them to pay any attention to the interests of consumers further away than their first market. So, in the process of identifying the capacity for a farm to differentiate its output from competing farms, which opens this entirely different, much more controllable environment for management to it, there's going to have to be consideration of the market levels between the farm and the final consumer, which it is sensible for a farm to view as its markets. The distinction here is between a beef producer who's carting meat off to a farm market and seems to be quite sensibly taking the view that meat buyers at a farmer's market are reasonably viewed as his consumers, and somebody who's growing a pine plantation who takes the view that people who buy pine furniture are his consumers. That's the distinction we're talking about. And the only thing that's different in those two cases is where the distinctive characteristics, the defining characteristics of the output of the farmer cease to resonate with buyers. Where do they disappear? Where do they all collapse into being fit characteristics? Where do they all get transmogrified into something else that is unidentifiable and can't be attached to the output of the farmer by that market level where that's happening? So the proposition is that farm management is going to be comprehensive if we're going to be more open than we have been. And of course some of this isn't very new. I think we've known for a long time that perfect competition is not a very nice place to play, but it's just that we don't say it to farmers very often. Rather, we talk to farmers as though what we're advising them to do can work. And very often it's not clear to me that that's all the case, and systems theory, open systems theory, suggests that if the intensity of competition is makes the situation sufficiently near perfect competition, farm management is quite a different exercise. And it's ludicrously optimistic to treat it as though one can make adequately informed, meaningful, best bet decisions about what one should produce for the next 5 or 7 years in any rational way. It's just not enabled by the environment that a farm is in unless it can deny that perfection in the competition, if you like. I think for farm management to back up a bit and identify the strategic environment that farms are in, to see whether they're essentially playing some form of roulette or whether they can take the view that no, they're more like an imperfectly competitive operation. Farm management needs to generate some frameworks that enable it to be able to characterise the environment that the farm is operating in, and identify from there how far down the system they might look to be targeting particular customers, etc. If the jump can be made, and this is the incentive for many farmers, of course, to chase farmers' markets, to chase anything they can to identify points of differentiation, if that jump can be made, the world changes fundamentally. Fundamentally. Survival becomes infinitely more manageable under imperfect, or worse, from an economist's point of view, competitive circumstances. If one can't make that jump, there is simply insufficient information to do what Kay said it's all about. That is, it becomes quite incidental and accidental as to whether one can match capabilities to the market. You don't know where the market is. All of this, of course, is to just park for the moment a small problem of volatility in inputs and input prices and production processes.
Terrific, thank you, Vic. And I just got to watch off Peter because I thought otherwise we might be till midnight. Some quick questions for Vic, a couple perhaps, and then we'll move on.
We've had a couple of papers today. Ross gave a good one on volatility and there was one on supply chains, and they both sort of feed into what you're talking about here. And you talk to farmers and they say, well, I'm just too busy. They're running a biological system, and we've been banging on about this farm management that's been banging on about specialisation and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't think you talk. But it's a nice theoretical framework, but how do you get farmers to buy into it? They always say, I'm just too busy. I was talking to a farmer, we just had a terrible season in New South Wales in regards to wheat quality, and they say, well, I don't even know how to sell my wheat. And the wheat's already in the truck, and he's down there delivering, and he say, how do I sell my wheat? Because they just reckon they're too busy. Sure, some farmers do take that step and go into that differentiation stage.
Well, I'm not suggesting they should.
No, but they do that. They do take that sort of approach, or they go into the strategic alliance one. But farmers are a bunch of independent people.
But most people are rational most of the time. And they're too busy doing the things that's most appropriate for them to do. Yeah. So, for many farmers, it's absurd to contemplate differentiating.
Yeah.
It's just not available. It's just not on. And so what I'm suggesting is that to assist them in their farm management, we can't just sit there and say, oh yeah, it's probably worth a shot. We need to be able to sit there and say, don't waste your bloody time. You ain't got nothing that resonates any further down that marketing system than the truck. That's it.
I think that's the key, is that too many farm advisors don't tell them to don't waste their time.
Or, on the other side, they don't think the whole game through, and a lot of this involves contemplating the usage context that the products are going into for customers. They don't know enough about those to know whether there are meaningful points of differentiation. It's not unusual. Universities don't do this either.
Right, we might move on. We'll come back to all of this. Thank you, Vic.